Right, good morning everybody and welcome to the introductory workshop for SurpassPaper Plus. You should all now be suitably inspired after the presentation by Martin, David and Andy this morning, so thank you very much for that, guys. Now it's time to show you how far we've actually come in version 1 and what the product looks like. My name is Murdoch, I am the product owner for Paper Plus, and I'm joined today by Richard London, Head of Design, and David Scott, Technical Architect, both of whom have been integral working on this project along with our development team. We're going to start with a demonstration of the product so far. We'll walk you through that, and then we will actually let you loose on some devices so that you can get hands-on yourself. Following that, we shall look at what's coming up in terms of our product roadmap before opening up for discussion and questions at the end. I would appreciate it if you could keep a note of all your questions until that final part of the session. There are some notepads on your table, so if you can just jot these down as we go through, that would be much appreciated. All of Paper Plus is controlled based on a number of assessment codes. Currently, these are generated on an online dashboard based on a number of different assessment details. These are awarding organisation, centre number, paper reference and assessment year. And as you can see on the board, these are all hashed together technical issues, to create these assessment codes at the end. So as we go through the demo, I'll indicate where these codes are used and try and explain at that time what they're used for. Candidates first see a screen where they are asked to select their awarding organisation. They know this because they've got the assessment paper on their table. These are provided by the awarding organisations, as we know, in the same way as current paper-based assessments, and the codes will be provided to centres along with these. So as a candidate, you select your awarding organisation based on the assessment you're sitting, and you begin entering the details. The app doesn't know anything about the assessment or indeed about the candidate, so it's really important that all these details are filled in, and as such every field on this screen is mandatory. If a candidate tries to start the assessment without filling all of these in, then they receive validation, advising them that they've left some fields blank. So if Rich tries to press start assessment at this point, you will receive an error message. Also on this screen, it's the first time we use an assessment code. So candidates have to enter an unlock code into this field. And this, as we said, is a combination of the assessment details. So candidates cannot proceed and start an assessment if this is incorrect. So if any of paper reference, centre number, assessment year or unlock code are wrong, then you can't proceed. Once a candidate has entered correct details, they can start the assessment. And Paper Plus has been designed to work in a locked-down mode. So with an iPad, which is what Rich is using at the moment, this makes use of the native Apple guided access functionality. Guided access can be set up on an iPad in advance of an assessment by the candidate, and therefore during an assessment they simply need to triple tap on the home button to enable it. And once guided access is enabled, candidates are unable to exit the application. Candidates prompted to enter the first question number that they will answer, and then they proceed into the text editor itself where they can compose their answers. Standard formatting functionality is available both in the Windows and iOS version, including copy, cut and paste. However, it's worth pointing out that the clipboard on devices is actually cleared upon starting an assessment, so candidates can't copy prepared text and paste it into the application once they've started an assessment. They can add and build up their answers via the Add New Answer button. This will allow them to create the answers in any order that they wish, although if Rich tries to add a new answer and uses the same number that he's already used, it will prevent him doing so. So you can't enter duplicate question numbers, but you add new answers and then compose the text in there. Data is saved both to the local device and if there's a connection to the server every 30 seconds or upon navigation through the application. So up in the top corner here, you can see a little flashing message which pops up upon saving just to let the candidates know that everything's okay. And then if we move to the My Answers screen, here you can see every question that you've created and quickly navigate back to keep amending. So as we know, the application is in guided access, or the device is in guided access. And whilst that's enabled, you can't come out of Paper Plus. However, as I mentioned before, this is controlled by the candidates. So in order to prevent centres from having to do the laborious task of taking candidates' own devices and setting up guided access, candidates can do this themselves, but it does give them the ability to exit guided access. Now, we can't programmatically stop this from happening in iOS. What we can do is track these events and prevent candidates from resuming an assessment without intervention. You have to enable guided access again in order to resume an assessment. However, at this point, they will need to alert an invigilator to get the next one of our assessment codes. So at this point, a resume code is required, and this is again provided to centres ahead of an assessment and should only ever be known to invigilators. So an invigilator would enter the code, select an appropriate reason as to why the candidate exited guided access, and at this point, they can resume. Now, down the bottom here, we also indicate how long a candidate has been out of guided access, just so that the invigilator's got as much information as possible. Once we're back into the assessment, the candidate can continue as normal, and when a candidate has finished answering all the questions, or in fact the time has run out, then they can proceed to the review and finish screen, where they can see all the assessment information and the questions that have been entered. We can show more or show less based on the size of the textual answer, just to help navigation. But once you're happy, you can scroll down to the bottom and select Finish Assessment. Candidates are prompted to say whether they're certain. If you finish an assessment, you cannot go back and edit any further. So if you're sure, click Finish, and then you receive a submission screen. There are two types of submission screen based on whether the device is connected or not. As we have a perfectly working connection, we have got an upload code. So this is the third one of our assessment codes, and this is an indication that the assessment data has been successfully saved to the server. It also indicates that all the data has been, the answer data has been removed from the device. So as an invigilator, I can walk along collecting papers at the end of an assessment, or in fact for Paper Plus candidates, I can cross-reference this code with the code that I received from my awarding organisation, and if they match, then I am satisfied that for this device and for this candidate, the assessment is successfully saved on the database and that there's no answer data on the device. Now, Rich, can you just let me know for me, please? If the device did not have a connection to the internet at the time of finishing the assessment, we get a slightly different screen which provides different information to the invigilator. So this submission screen displays a finished code. This again is a combination of the assessment details, so paper reference, awarding organisation, assessment year, and centre number. This can be generated on the device itself in a similar way to the unlock code. So even though there's no connection, upon finishing an assessment, the device can generate this code, allowing the invigilator to cross-reference with their list. And the finish code indicates that an assessment has been completed, meaning the candidate can no longer go back and edit their answers. But it also means that the data remains on the device. So as an invigilator, that's important to know because I will then follow my own centre process as to what to do next. But what we also do is we automatically try and upload these assessments every 15 seconds. So if my device found a connection and the app was still running, every 15 seconds we would try and upload. And upon successfully uploading at that point, we would see the upload code. So we'd switch screens and the invigilator would know that now the assessment has reached the server. So going back to the dashboard, this is where we created our codes, but this is also where we currently store the data. So for version 1, we need a way of viewing it and accessing it due to the fact that there's currently no e-marking integration. But at the moment, we get some raw data which shows that everything's working correctly, and we're able to generate PDFs so that we can save and access the assessment information. So that's it end to end. Split these up into short, medium and long term, but with Paper Plus we are looking to release regularly, and because we work in agile development we have the flexibility to do this when something's suitable for release. In short term, we are looking to implement some monitoring functionality for Paper Plus assessments. So this is an example of what, say, an invigilator might be able to use as they're monitoring an exam. We have information displayed here about assessments in progress, any that are submitted, and more importantly, any which have problems. So we can track a number of events in Paper Plus, and we can notify invigilators to any of these event statuses on here. For example, any candidate that exits guided access, we can notify invigilators on here. So whilst we said candidates need an invigilator to intervene before they can resume, the monitoring functionality would potentially alert invigilators to candidates exiting guided access before the candidates themselves do. I'm sure you can all imagine the benefits that might have. Again, lost server connection. This will indicate if anybody's device has gone offline, potentially allowing the invigilators to take action ahead of an assessment finishing. And low battery status. We can monitor the battery status of the device in Paper Plus, and we need to do some more work to implement some warnings on the client side. And at that point, we will be able to alert invigilators to any device which is running low on battery, again, so that they can take action before the device dies. We also want to do some work to support changing devices mid-assessment. So if, for example, your battery were to go on your iPad and you've created half of your assessment answers on that device, if you were unable to charge it up, we want to be able to allow candidates to pick up a new device and to download their assessment they've started creating onto a second device. Sounds like a simple idea, but there are some complexities in implementing this because we need to consider a lot of scenarios regarding whether devices are online, offline, and making sure that the candidates receive the right information. But this is something that's really important, so again, it's a short-term goal. Whilst we know that we can start an assessment whilst the device is offline, currently, if a device is offline, when you finish an assessment, we get the finish code. What we want to be able to do is support centres in allowing assessments to be finished offline and no internet connection being required. So we're looking to do some work to allow centres to download assessments onto portable devices which can generate their own Wi-Fi. So this is a verbatim media share device which has internal storage, an SD card, and potentially a centre could have one of these. They're £23 on Amazon, so they're not expensive. So assessments could be downloaded onto this where internet was unavailable. Again, this will be beneficial for centres if they don't have 3G or Wi-Fi connectivity, or just as a backup. Next, we want to improve accessibility options. We currently have the ability to take an assessment unlocked, so without requiring guided access. This is useful for candidates with accessibility requirements when they may need to use third-party software. So if they have an electronic question paper that they need to use Adobe for, they will be able to use Paper Plus and Adobe at the same time. As we've said, we want to integrate with e-markers. We are talking with RM at the moment to integrate with Assessor. And we also want to integrate with Surpass. And in doing that, we will obviously integrate with our marking solution. Standalone functionality for centres describes the ability for centres to use Paper Plus for internal assessments. So part of the beauty of Paper Plus is that we want candidates to be assessed in the way that they learn, and we also need to assess them in the way that they're assessed internally. So Paper Plus needs to be used in centres for classroom assessments, mocks, and in order to let centres do that, they need to be able to generate these assessment codes themselves. So the plan with the standalone functionality is to allow centres to do that, and for assessments to be completed and saved locally. So a centre can save a class assessment to their local network as a PDF, and they could mark it internally without any requirement for awarding organisations to get involved. Currently, we're only working with Windows and iPads. However, we do want to extend the number of devices that can run Paper Plus. Android and Chromebook are on the list, so we will look to add these to the support over the next sort of 12 months or so. Again, at the moment, only textual answers can be entered into Paper Plus. We do want to extend this so that formulas can be added. Potentially, we can accommodate drawings and maybe interact with the camera functions on devices.